Well, welcome. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and thanks so much for joining us here at the Art of Feminine Negotiation. I know all of our time is really valuable, and I truly appreciate when you choose to spend your time here with us. And I try and make it really worthwhile for you. And today you're in for a real treat. We're going to be talking with Dr. Winifred Bragg about negotiating with the Bragg factor on your side. And we can all use a little bit of that. So stay with us and welcome, Winifred. It's so great to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited about talking with you and your audience today.
Yeah, I love this idea, really intrigued me. And well, first, for those of you who may not know Dr. Bragg, she's a physician, a CEO. She's a five-time best-selling author. She's the creator of the BraggFactor, which we're going to hear about today. And it's a system that teaches entrepreneurs and other professionals how to own and be able to really communicate your values. So you can see why I thought that was important for negotiating our best lives. When you can kick it up a notch, I am all over that. She's also a nationally recognized speaker, and she's been featured on ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, you name it. So she's a busy woman with a lot of kudos behind her. So, Winifred, why don't we start? Like, what is the Bragg Factor system?
Well, the brag factor, as you said, Cindy, is a five-step system that really uses my name as a framework and is to help people to have confidence and to understand their value. And using my name, the five letters, I won't spend all day on this, but it's BRAGG. And B, the first step says behave as if. If you want to be an entrepreneur, be successful in whatever you're choosing to do, why don't you try to behave as if you're that person that you idolize and want to be so you can model it? Success leaves crumbs. So if you behave as if you're that person, whatever you're trying to do, you're modeling them. And people are flattered when you model them and you call them and say, I'm doing this. How can you help me? So B stands for behave as if. R stands for you need to have the resist the urge to quit or complain.
Okay,
Oftentimes we all have goals. It's the beginning of the year, and they say by the third week in January, most of us have stopped
it's true.
and quit on our New Year's resolutions. So the brag factor teaches you how not to quit when you have a goal. And A stands for accept no limitation and ask for help. A lot of times we realize that we're at a stumbling block or something that we can't do. We have an obstacle. And there may be someone in our circle that we could simply just ask for help.
Yeah.
And then G stands for grow your gift. I've had people who come to me in a coaching program that a lot of times they had a vocation that wasn't doing well. And when I got deep into knowing them, I found out that they had a hobby that they could grow and it could grow into a business. So sometimes entrepreneurs, you can grow your gift and that can make a business for you. I had a young woman who came to me and she was in marketing and she wasn't doing that well. But as I talked to her, I learned that she was a graphic artist.
Hmm.
So she used that and started her own business.
Yeah.
And the last thing with the brag factor is the second G stands for gratitude. Because
Oh,
I think the most important thing when we are trying to do whatever we want to do, try to do it from a state of gratitude. Because we know research says that when you show gratitude, you are more successful,
yeah.
healthier, and happier. So, in a nutshell, those are the five steps of the brag
Yeah.
factor.
I love that. Oh my God, it's like you've taken all of the key elements that are out there in terms of personal development and growth and motivation and put it into a tiny, easy to remember sort of package. And I like that behave as if, because even the science is starting. So we used to poo-poo it, but now, the science is pretty clear that if we train our brain, if we act a particular way, our brain's going to recognize, oh, I guess that's a pattern I should be doing now, and it'll step up and make it happen. I think that's beautiful. So give us what those five are, just the summary again for the BRAGG.
Is B, behave as if. R, resist the urge to quit or complain. A, accept no limitation, ask for help. G, grow your gift. And the last one is gratitude.
That's so great. And such a simple formula to negotiate our better lives. And I want to put a pin for our listeners in that ask for help because we're often conditioned not to do that, that we see it as a weakness. And when we try and juggle a million balls in the air at the time and we don't go out there and ask for help, a lot of those balls start dropping and we can't live into our best life. So I love that, Dr. Bragg. I think that's awesome. So how did you come to create this Bragg Factor system? What motivated you?
Well, I've been a physician for over 25 years, and I treat people who have spinal or orthopedic problems, shoulder problems, hip pain, knee pain. And so people come to me to have some resolution or some solutions for their physical pain.
Yeah.
But as I was doing that, I found out so many people were so into, say, if they had back pain and they weren't able to go back to their job because their back was hurting. What I found out is that they were just so tied into that job that they didn't understand their value. And what they were really lacking is also the pain of lack of self-confidence.
Yeah.
So I started talking to my patients about that over the time period. And then so in time, I learned that it doesn't matter whether you have physical pain or pain from a relationship, finances, or your career, pain is pain. And
Yeah.
that people that have pain don't want to move. When your back hurts, you say, "Oh, I don't want to move." But think about it. If you're in a class and you're a student and you think you're failing, you're scared to move. If
Yeah.
you're in a career and something's going wrong, you're scared to move. So we feel stuck. And so I developed the Bragg Factor about 15 years ago to help people move from point A to B, from where they are to where they want to be.
Yeah. And what a great observation. I like that. Like as soon as we talk about pain, everybody immediately associates it with physical. And there's so much attention given to the physical in the medical community and, the wellness community, but people don't talk enough about those other kinds of pain that affect us. And
Uh,
I think it's why we see such mental health issues out there today as well. We don't address our pain in healthy ways. That's,
we don't address it, and particularly women. You
yeah.
know, I've seen so many women who had so many good things about them, but they were taught that you should not brag,
Yes.
B-R-A-G. But I say brag is a five-letter word, B-R-A-G-G, because that second G stands for gratitude. And if you're able to say things about yourself from a state of gratitude, it's not braggadocious, it's just a fact. But you have to learn how to brag so that you can negotiate a better life for yourself, whether that's in your career, whether it's in a relationship, or whatever it is, you need to understand your value and to be able to articulate it in a way that people understand it.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned about women because let's talk about the elephant in the room for a second. I think it's true. Women are taught to, play nice, keep yourself small. It's not proper to brag on yourself. And there is a huge price that, we pay for that in jobs. Studies show women with better qualifications are less likely to apply than men with significantly less. And yeah, like with my clients, I have them prepare. It's funny. I call it a brag list without the double G. So I'm gonna I'm gonna pass them on to you to get your system down. But just owning, as you say, our value and recognizing all of the skills we have instead of minimizing them or diminishing them and like, oh, that's nothing. So I think that's such an important awareness. And I know I read, I think, Winifred, that you had some adversity yourself. So how did the Bragg Factor system help you personally as well?
Well, I didn't know that's what it was when it was,
Yeah.
but I moved here after I finished my training to start a medical practice. Well, medical school didn't teach me how to market or really do the business aspect of
Yes.
medicine. But I knew that I had $100,000 in debt from my student loans, and my father made it clear that he'd help me with college and whatever, but he had other children, and
Yeah.
that he and my mom could not pay those loans back. So
Yeah.
I would go to networking events and I would say, "Hi, I'm Dr. Bragg. Nice to meet you." And people are like, "Yeah." And then they go on about their way. And I would come back and would not have one referral.
Yeah.
So I had to learn along the way, how could I differentiate myself from other doctors so that they could remember me
Uh,
and want to have a conversation with me so that I could get referrals? And I would go to my mailbox every month. Back then, they would give you a coupon, a white little coupon for
yeah.
loans. And I would see that loan and I was like, "Oh my God, that's that
Yeah.
coupon for those student loan." And I would put it in a briefcase, put that briefcase in the closet, close the closet, shut that briefcase down, and okay, don't worry about it. But I had to worry about them. And
Yeah.
so eventually I learned what I call a 30-second brag. And that's what kind of got me going brag factor and whatever. What was distinguishing me from other people that people would remember me that I could say at a networking event. So I call what I call that your 30-second brag. People call it your elevator pitch.
Yeah.
I say you're really bragging on yourself in 30
Yeah.
seconds in a way that people wanted to do that. And as a matter of using that, now 25 years later, I have treated over 20,000 patients. And I
Wow.
learned that from, doing that, from
Yeah.
that adversity.
Well, let's dive into that because I definitely wanted to touch on that 30-second sort of brag. So what can you share sort of some tips with our listeners here about how they can create their 30-second brag and what should you make sure to be including in it or maybe what should you make sure to leave out?
Yeah. Well, they can also go to my website, thebraggfactor.com, and they can download a free chapter from my book on how to create your 30-second brags. But
Nice.
generally, it has about 3 steps. The first thing you want to kind of say who you are, Winifred Bragg, a physician, a speaker, best-selling author, and what do you do that benefits somebody else?
Yeah.
I help people, entrepreneurs, as you said, and professionals to understand and how to articulate their value. So, step two, number one, who you are. What do you do that can benefit somebody else? And
Yeah.
number three, think about what's your special sauce that's going to distinguish you from other people. You may be a computer salesperson, and your number three may be, I've sold ever so many computers, 100,000 computers to
Yeah.
different businesses, and my customers say they like me because of my good customer service. That may be your unique thing. So, one, who you are, how it benefits other people, and what's your secret sauce that's unique that they could remember you. You're a computer person, and I check on my people quarterly to make sure that they are doing fine. Well, everybody in computers not going to do that. What can you say that's unique about you? Maybe some award you have, some volunteer work. People don't realize that sometimes you could be working in a volunteer organization and that gives you enormous
Yeah.
distinctions because you won Woman of the Year with the YMCA, or you raised money for the Girl Scouts or the Boy Scouts or whatever you did. But those are kind of things that people will remember that's unique about you.
Yeah. You have a tremendous capacity, I must say, to take what can be complicated sort of issues and compress them into really easily digestible nuggets, which is awesome. I love that. And I want for our listeners to circle back to number two for a second, just to make sure you get, because I think that's the piece that is so often missing. Most people don't necessarily care about, the list of credentials or whatever. They want to know what you can do for them. And so I love that you've built that, sort of bake that right into your 30-second brag system. Yeah, who you are and what your credentials are, brag on yourself, and how bragging on yourself can benefit whoever it is that you're chatting to. I think that's really the difference between people's ears perking up and going, oh, I got to get me some of that, right? I think that's fabulous. Yeah.
That's right, because you want to make it about them. And
Yeah.
since you said how to benefit them, the people are going to engage you and want to know more then because they can see that you can help them. And
Yeah.
so if you make it about them, then it makes it easier. And you're not really just so bragging then because you're telling them how I can
Yeah.
help you. And
Yeah.
so it makes it nice.
And I bet it opens people up because as soon as you tell about how you help people, they're like, "Oh, I have whatever," and probably start asking questions.
They
And
start asking
now
questions.
you're in a conversation, right? And
Now
so,
you're in a conversation. And some people have problems just bragging, and I tell them if you're going to a networking event and you feel a little shy about saying things about yourself, then I could go with you.
yeah,
And I could learn about you, what you do, you know what I do, and then I could introduce you to people.
yeah,
And then when you see how people respond to what I said about you, you get to thinking, oh gosh,
yeah.
they liked what she said about me. Then you may say it about yourself. So I call that getting a bragging buddy.
Yeah, I love that.
Bragging buddy to go with you to the networking event so that you kind of work that room,
Yeah.
bragging on each other. And by the end of the night, your stuff is smooth.
So it's kind of like having a wingman when you're in a bar trying to pick somebody up back in the old
That's
days,
right. That's right. That's kind of the same thing. That's right.
That's so good. Now, you alluded to it earlier about the importance of that sort of, owning your value in that. And I want to really hit home for our listeners about how, like, the brag factor can help us negotiate our mindset and show up more powerfully to get more of what we want in life. Like, why does it matter?
Where it matters because if you've ever worked for anybody, how often do they come by your desk and say, hey, Cindy, let me give you a raise today?
Yeah.
Raise your hand. Raise your hand. How many times in your life did that happen to you?
Yeah.
And so it's important to be able to articulate your value for job performances and just for getting clients or whatever. And then you're going to feel better about it. And when you understand your value, that's going to increase your self-confidence and you're going to feel more self-worth. And that's how the brag factor is going to help you do that. If you just take a list and you say, well, what do I have? Some people say, well, what is my gift?
Yeah.
If you listen to your friends and think about what do they sometimes come all the time asking you for,
Yeah.
it may be color coordination. You're going to a dance or going somewhere, and they say, does this blouse go with this jacket? And you
Yep.
find people are always kind of asking me that, or they're
Yep.
saying, you're having a party. How many people should I have? What food should I have? Then you realize that's a skill of organizing,
Yeah.
and that you seem to be able to put people together. And those are good qualities to have. If you just think about what people come to you for all the time, just friends, your friend circles,
Yeah.
that can help you understand your natural gifts and start making a list of that. And then you'll understand that your value of what you bring.
Yeah, that's so good. So good. And also, I don't know what your thoughts are. As you were saying that, I was thinking, don't be afraid to even ask people. And as you're going through this and building up your brag list, ask a bunch of people from different areas of your life, what would you say are the things that I'm best at? Because I bet some of the answers surprise most people, right?
That's right. And you can ask them and just be open to some of them going to say, now I tell you what you're not good at, and you didn't ask them that. But that's going to that's going to help you as well. But if you ask a few people, they will be able to tell you. And when you create that 30-second brag, go to your Facebook group or your LinkedIn
Yeah,
people and say, now listen, I'm trying to improve how I talk about myself.
yeah,
How do you think that sounds? What did that say to you?
yeah,
And let them critique you because they're really a friend of yours. It
yeah,
should be more than just liking you on Facebook. They should like you enough to give you a minute or 2 minutes of time to let you listen to it and massage it
yeah.
and get it together.
Yeah, that's so great. Such great advice. And like practice, right? And that applies whether you're doing your brag list or even when you're about to do a negotiation. Most people, I think we have it in our head and then they end up going in cold so that the first time they're asking for that raise or saying that number is in the actual meeting or negotiation when it counts and they're not comfortable and then it shows. So I love that advice. Practice with a friend, right? Don't be afraid to get feedback and so that when it matters, you show up really powerfully. I think that's fabulous.
And not only in today's world, we have an iPhone and it has a memo thing where you can do voice memos there.
Yeah.
So you can practice and listen to yourself
Yeah.
and record it and have it back said to yourself, listen to it in the car
Yeah.
and but practice, as you say, is so important to practice so it's not cold and you've heard those words so it
Yeah.
doesn't stumble and it makes it come off smoothly.
Yeah. And you don't choke on the parts that you're not yet comfortable. If you're not used to bragging on yourself, sometimes it kind of,
Right.
we undercut ourselves. Now, is there a right way to brag and, versus things that you should avoid? Can you share some tips on that for us?
Well, one of the things about it when you're doing it, you want your face and your expression to kind of go with it when you're talking about yourself. You don't want to kind of look like you're at a funeral and I'm kind of a woman who did this of the year. So you want your face and your expressions to kind of be one that's warm and inviting. You
Yeah.
never want to use the words like just and only.
Oh,
I've
good.
had so many people, particularly women, that say,
Yes.
I just raised $100,000 for a group. That's the only thing I could think of. I'm like, just $100,000? So
Yeah.
don't use the words just and only. I only did that. Now, if you're the only one in the company that developed something, that's different. But generally, get rid of those words just and
Yeah.
only when you're describing yourself because that can diminish you. And then there may be some people who are a little shy about it who may have to make themselves a product because they still feel, I don't want to brag. So
Yeah.
if you are a lawyer or an accountant,
Yeah.
maybe you talk about a product. Well,
Yeah.
I have a package that I help people with their business taxes and their personal taxes. And this is a product that goes hand in hand because it helps me to understand your budget better.
Yeah.
Therefore, you're talking about a product rather than yourself until you get used to it. But I think that anytime you can also talk about the credit to your team,
Yeah.
how you helped your team to develop something, and how I won the award. I'm just making this up. Won the award of Woman of the Year at the
Yeah.
YMCA. And I was so grateful to be able to be the woman of the year. See
Yeah.
how that sound? I was so grateful that I was chosen. You're still bragging.
Yeah.
You said how grateful you were to
Yes.
be the only one that raised $10,000 or the only one on your team selected to get the promotion. I was just so grateful for that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's humble, right? A humble brag. It's a great way to
Uh-huh.
do it. Yeah.
That's right.
And I want to circle back to that Justin only because that really resonated with me, Winifred. And I think, again, as you said, women in particular do that. And just last night, I was at an author's event and, we did a quick circle with people talking about what they're working on. And so many of the women in the room went, oh, it's just a little poetry book, or it was just this, or it's only this. And I put my hand up. I said, I'm sorry, I've just got to stop and say, invite everybody in the room to stop using the word just when you describe your accomplishments, right? Just own it. It was, yeah. So
That's
such
right.
good advice.
Just own it. And yet, as you said earlier, if there's a job with 10 qualifications, a
Yeah.
man can have one, he will apply.
It's so
We
true.
can lack one and say, I don't
Oh,
have that. I only have nine. And
yeah.
so the woman doesn't apply. And so the next time you have that thought, think about it. That man is spending the money you could have had, and you
Yeah.
had nine times what he had when he had only one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, so good to recognize that. Now it's obvious, and we're talking a lot about how this helps us in our business relationships, which is super important. But as you're talking, I recognize as well, my gosh, the impact of this it can have on our personal relationships as well, whether with our intimate partner, our friends, our kids. So can you speak to that for a moment about how this sort of brag factor system enhances our confidence and then improves our personal as well as our professional lives? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, you're going to enter into any relationship, whether it's a intimate one or a family relationship. You're going to enter into that knowing that you have something to offer in that relationship. So when people say things to you and you normally feel insecure or bad about it or whatever, you're entering into that relationship as though I'm valued. I'm one of
Yeah,
the five daughters and I have a place in that family.
yeah,
This is what I do and add, or this is what I add in that relationship. And then people, whether it's a personal relationship or a professional, are going to treat you better when
yeah,
they understand that you feel like you deserve better.
yeah.
You don't enter into it feeling that you don't deserve any better. So that's how it helps your personal
Yeah.
relationships as well.
Yeah. And it's kind of like that, what do they call the confidence competence loop, right? I think when you
Right.
do that brag factor, you get that confidence, you recognize your value. It lets you then take more chances or step in a bigger way, personally and professionally, which gives you even more confidence and which has you step up even more into those roles. I think it's like this beautiful infinity loop ever up, right?
So
When we embrace.
confidence breeds confidence, and
Yeah.
it will go over in all the things that you do. There may be people that you want to meet just personally that you maybe not didn't want to approach them,
Yeah.
but because you have your brag back to you, are more likely to say, "Hi, I'm so and so. Can we go to lunch?" Or "I'd
Absolutely.
like to meet you for coffee." Whereas before you would not have done that. So
Yeah.
confidence helps us in all forms of our life, personal, professional, and whatever business is going to help you.
Yeah. I mean, it just opens up so many opportunities that otherwise would pass us by. I
And you
think,
talked about it earlier about how the brain, our subconscious mind, has something in it called the reticular
yeah,
activating system, which is a network in our brain, and it filters out things. When we wake up in the morning, we have about 90,000 thoughts.
yeah,
Most of them are negative. And
yeah,
so you get up in the morning, I wrote a book called Dreams Without Goals or Nightmares.
yeah,
And in doing that book, I researched what do millionaires and billionaires do? They get up in the morning and they start their day with confidence.
yeah,
And so if they have a goal that they want to accomplish, they go in the mirror and they say, "Today I'm going to be on Cindy's program
yeah,
and I'm going to be good."
yeah,
And you tell your mind that and close your eyes and see yourself having that interview or see yourself at that job or see yourself closing that deal. See yourself on the date with that guy that you thought would never ask you out. See yourself doing that, and the reticular activating system is going to move you toward opportunities rather than obstacles. Now, people think that's voodoo, but have you ever wanted a new car? If you had I wanted a new car once, and everywhere I went, it was a green Honda that I wanted.
Yeah.
Everywhere I went, I would see that green hunter.
It's so true.
That's because my mind, my reticular activating system was moving me toward that. So it can move you toward opportunities rather than obstacles if you get up in the morning and start your day with
Yeah.
confidence.
Yeah. And I love that. And for our listeners, the opposite is also true. So take Dr. Bragg's advice on that because if you wake up in the morning thinking, "Oh, I've got this interview, I'm going to tank it. I'm not good enough for this. I'm not," your brain's going to look for examples to support that as well. So why not embrace the most positive, affirming version of yourself? I think that's such important advice for people. Now you mentioned about the one particular book. You got like five best-selling books under your belt. Was there
Yeah.
something, what would you say is the most sort of surprising or something that shocked you while you were researching your books?
Well, I was somewhat shocked to know that all of those busy, busy billionaires, every one of them had a set morning routine.
Yeah.
They didn't deviate. Some of them believed in meditation. Some of them believed they had to exercise first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Some of them believed they get up first and read a book. And a lot of them said that they would shut off that iPhone. They wanted to shut it off in the morning, iPhone or whatever phone you have, shut it off and shut off those emails in the morning because a lot of those are distractions and
Yes.
that could take you away from doing what you wanted to do. And most of them said that they wanted to have certain things that they wanted to have accomplished by noon
Yeah.
and they want to have it done by noon. And so they had a morning routine to stick to that so that they didn't have any of those distractions that we allow ourselves. Like I used
Yeah.
to go to bed with my iPhone right there so it could beat me all night long.
Yeah.
And so I learned cut that thing and put it on the sleep mode
Yeah.
because most of the time it's nothing that important that you need to be addressing first thing so that you can focus on your goals early on before you have those distracting emails.
Yeah, I think that's great. Good. You gave us a lot to digest there as well. I think that's fabulous. First, have a system, have a routine in the morning, and block your time. Like, get rid of those distractions for at least some period of time. Because speaking of being shocked, I was shocked when I can't remember what the number is now, but when I read how long it takes the brain to be able to get back track and focus after you've allowed yourself a distraction. They'll say every time you think, "Oh, I'll just check this text, I'll just check this," turn off those dings and rings and bells and everything that's grabbing your attention until you get what the heck you wanted done. I think that's
It's
great.
right, because otherwise you would have given all of those people your time rather than
Yeah,
taking care of what was on your priority list.
absolutely.
You gave it to, and even at work, there are certain people that's going to come by your desk every morning, and
Yeah,
that person kind of is negative.
yeah,
And you have to kind of think of them the same way you do as your computer. Sometimes my IT guy says, "Dr. Bragg, you have too much on this computer. We need to defrag it."
yeah,
The same thing you need to do with your mind. Sometimes people come by and tell you things you just need to say delete, delete, delete,
yeah.
and get that out of your system because that's going to take you a while to get back centered to do what you wanted to do because you allowed Sally and John to distract you.
That's such a good. And again, I think women are more guilty of that because we've been taught from a young age to be people pleasers and to be the carers and nurturers, and we let everybody take pieces of our day, of our time, away
That's
from our
right.
goal. Yeah, so
That's
good.
exactly because we want to be so emotional. They say when women are little, as we grow, I don't want to brag about becoming some promotion in the brownies because you didn't, and I feel so bad you didn't make it. Whereas a young guy would say, I made Eagle Scout, and he's
It's
bragging,
so true.
I made Eagle Scout. Peter didn't make it, but I made it. But someone gets really emotional. I don't want to mention it because Cindy didn't make it. And that just gets all into your mindset because we become emotional about it.
Yeah. Well, Winifred, this has been fantastic. I wish we are going to have you back, that we need more time to be able to cover this in more depth, but you've given us some great nuggets here. And I normally love to end by asking, what's one of the greatest mindset shifts that you've had in your life? It doesn't have to be on the subject, just one of those aha moments when you look at things differently.
Well, one of the aha moments that I realize is how much you can learn from people from different backgrounds and different places. A lot of times you go to Zoom meetings and they may say, have a breakout. And when they said breakout, I wouldn't go to the breakout things. I listened to the core subject, but wouldn't do the breakouts.
Yeah.
And so now that I go, I've had the opportunity to know with Zoom, you get to meet people from all over the world
Yeah.
and you get to hear different folks' perspectives. And that helps change your mindset because you can always learn something. And I think a big mindset is to always be a student because if you're a student, you're always ready to learn. And think about when you're in school, you're grateful for little things. So if you keep your mindset as like a student and growing, that keeps you in a state of gratitude and that'll help you to propel you forward.
That's a nice one. And boy, we could use more of that today, right? When we don't open
Yeah,
ourselves up to other people, other cultures, other thoughts, other opinions, we get that us and them or that other that just divides us and allows for the kind of polarization we're seeing around the world today. It's
it
disheartening.
does. And that does so much. So now when I go to the Zoom meetings and whatever, so much, I look forward because it's called social learning.
Yeah.
Because you get to travel to other countries. I was in a meeting with someone about a couple months ago, and in my breakout was somebody from Chile. I'd never been to Chile,
Yeah.
and there was someone from France, Canada,
Yeah.
all in that one Zoom. They broke us up in a group of five or six.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I had gone through journey through many lands
Yeah.
just by being in that breakout. And those are the opportunities that we need to embrace. And
Yeah.
so I connect with those people. So I've learned different perspectives about things.
Yeah, that's a beautiful perspective about that. Because I think a lot of people do the same thing. They sort of tap out during the breakouts and then
That's
jump
right.
back in. So
Jump back in. And I'm like, okay, I don't have time for that. Let me do something else. Let me pay my bills or do something during this
so,
breakout. And
yeah.
finally, aha came to me. I went and I'm like, I've been missing all of that
Yeah.
because I was paying a bill when I could have been growing.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Really beautiful. So where can people learn about you? You mentioned about your website. Where do you want people to go?
I want people to go to thebraggfactor.com. I invite you to go there and download my chapter, a free chapter of my book on how to create a brag book for a competitive job market. You get a free chapter to have tips in it. And you can also go on that same website and download my toolkit. And if you want to, you can always go to Amazon and look up any of my books under Winifred Bragg.
Fantastic. And for our listeners, take advantage of that. I always say when people are offering free resources on their webpage or otherwise, make sure you go and take advantage of that. Why wouldn't you? So,
Right.
Dr. Winifred Bragg, this has been just an absolute treat. Lots of great takeaways that are simple to follow, but life-changing. So, thanks so much for being with us today.
And thank you for having me as well.
Yeah, and for our listeners, I have no doubt you got lots of value. If you were listening at all kinds of takeaways, I say as well, make sure give the gift of sharing. Share this episode with other people in your life. There is nobody, I believe, who couldn't benefit from trying to implement this system into your life and just make it a part of your everyday practice to have you showing up as a better version of yourself so that you can get more, negotiate your best life. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't done that yet as well. And before we sign off, as always, just share a couple of ways we can work together. If you're looking to up-level your negotiation skills so you can negotiate your best life, I've got everything from one-on-one to mastermind VIP experiences to online and groups. So help you better leverage your innate power to get more of what you want and deserve. If that sounds interesting, check it out at artoffemininenegotiation.com. And if you haven't yet, make sure to grab a copy of my book of the same name, The Art of Feminine Negotiation. And that's a wrap for this episode. So until next time, go forth and negotiate your best life on your terms so you can stop missing out and start getting more of what you want and deserve from the boardroom to the bedroom. Until next time, take care.